Previously, on Building a Nation, America wrote its Constitution, but those divides couldn't hold. This is the Civil War era, where a nation tried to remake itself. That growing divide was about to collide head-on with a new problem. As new territories joined the Union, who would decide whether they allowed slavery? By 1819, the Senate was evenly split between free and slave states, a careful balance that new territories threatened to upset. The Missouri Compromise of 1820 admitted Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state, while drawing a line across the remaining territory to determine where slavery expanded. It held the Union together for decades, but it was a compromise, not a solution. The underlying conflict remained unresolved. As settlers pushed further west after the Mexican-American War, the question of slavery in new territories resurfaced, more urgent than ever. In 1854, the Kansas-Nebraska Act let settlers in these new territories vote on whether to allow slavery, overturning the Missouri Compromise's boundary line entirely. Pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers flooded into Kansas, and the territory descended into violent conflict, a preview of the war to come. Outrage over the Kansas-Nebraska Act helped birth a new political party, the Republicans, united by opposition to slavery's expansion. Meanwhile, an enslaved man named Dred Scott sued for his freedom, arguing that time spent in free territory made him free. The Supreme Court ruled against him, declaring that Black Americans could not be citizens and that Congress had no power to ban slavery in the territories at all. The ruling stunned the North, energized the South, and shattered any remaining hope of political compromise. Missouri's careful balance, Kansas-Nebraska's popular vote, and now Dred Scott. Each attempt to manage the crisis had only deepened it. With no compromise left to try, the nation stood on the edge of a conflict that had been building for decades. A war was now only a matter of time. That matter of time ran out on April 12, 1861, when Confederate cannons opened fire on Fort Sumter and the Civil War began. 11 Southern states seceded, forming the Confederate States of America under President Jefferson Davis, while the North remained the Union under President Abraham Lincoln. The Union pursued the Anaconda Plan, blockading Southern ports and splitting the Confederacy in two, while the South focused on defending its territory and wearing down Northern resolve. The war's first major battle at Bull Run shocked both sides. This proved it would be no quick, easy conflict. Lincoln worked tirelessly to hold the Union together.
General Robert E. Lee proved to be a brilliant tactician, leading Confederate forces to a string of early victories in the Eastern Theater.
Antietam became the bloodiest single day in American history, but it gave the Union enough of a strategic victory for Lincoln to make his next major move. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring enslaved people in Confederate states free. That same year, the Union turned back Lee's invasion. This was at Gettysburg. It was the bloodiest battle and a decisive turning point.
Ulysses S. Grant rose to command all Union armies, adopting a relentless strategy of continuous pressure that Lee could no longer outmaneuver.
General William Tecumseh Sherman marched through Georgia, crippling the Confederacy's ability to supply its armies and breaking Southern morale. On April 9, 1865, Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the Civil War. The war claimed the lives of over 600,000 Americans, the deadliest conflict in the nation's history. With the war won and slavery abolished, the nation now faced an entirely new challenge: how to rebuild and reunite a broken country. That signature we saw a moment ago wasn't just paperwork. It was one of the most consequential documents in American history. When the Civil War began, its stated purpose was simple: preserve the Union. Ending slavery wasn't yet the official goal.
But abolitionists and enslaved people escaping to Union lines pushed the war's purpose toward something bigger: freedom itself.
President Lincoln weighed the decision carefully. He needed a Union military victory first, so the move wouldn't look like desperation. The bloody but strategically successful Battle of Antietam finally gave Lincoln the moment he needed.
Lincoln first issued a preliminary proclamation, warning that if the Confederacy didn't rejoin the Union by January 1, 1863, enslaved people in rebel states would be declared free.
When the deadline passed, Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory free. The proclamation only applied to Confederate states, not to slave-holding border states still loyal to the Union. Freedom, in practice, still depended on Union military advances.
From that point on, every Union victory also meant freedom for more enslaved people, transforming the war into a fight for liberty as much as for unity.
The proclamation also opened the door for black men to formally enlist in the Union Army. Nearly 200,000 would go on to serve.
The emancipation was a wartime measure, not a permanent law. Full, nationwide abolition would come later, with the 13th Amendment. With freedom now tied to Union victory, the war pressed on toward its end. And with it, an entirely new challenge: how to rebuild and reunite a broken nation. Rebuilding the nation proved just as difficult as winning the war itself. This period became known as Reconstruction, and it would test the country in entirely new ways.
The South's economy, infrastructure, and social order lay in ruins. Millions of newly freed people faced an uncertain future with little support.
The federal government created the Freedmen's Bureau to help formerly enslaved people find work, education, and basic necessities. The president who had guided the Union through it was assassinated, leaving Reconstruction in the hands of his successor. The new president pursued a lenient approach, quickly remitting Southern states and pardoning many former Confederate leaders, alarming those who wanted deeper change. Southern states quickly passed black codes, laws designed to restrict the rights and freedoms of formerly enslaved people, keeping them tied to plantation labor. In response, Congress pursued stronger legal protections, leading to the passage of the 14th Amendment, which established citizenship and guaranteed equal protection under the law. In 1870, the 15th Amendment guaranteed black men the right to vote, a landmark step, though enforcement would prove deeply inconsistent. For a brief period, black Americans voted, held office, and served in state legislatures and Congress in numbers never seen before.
This progress triggered violent backlash. Groups like the Ku Klux Klan used intimidation and violence to suppress black political participation.
Over time, Northern political will to enforce Reconstruction weakened, and federal troops gradually withdrew from the South. A political deal in 1877 formally ended Reconstruction, withdrawing the last federal troops and effectively ending federal protection of black civil rights in the South.
In the decades that followed, Southern states enacted segregation laws and voter suppression tactics that would take nearly a century to overturn.
As Reconstruction ended, America turned toward a new era of rapid growth, industry, and transformation. Rebuilding the nation wasn't just about troops and politics. It required rewriting the Constitution itself. 3 amendments passed in just 5 years would permanently reshape American law. The 13th Amendment, ratified in 1865, formally abolished slavery throughout the entire United States, going beyond the Emancipation Proclamation's wartime limits. But the amendment included an exception for punishment of a crime, a clause that would later be used to justify forced labor through the prison system. The 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, declared that anyone born in the United States was a citizen, directly overturning the Dred Scott decision. It also guaranteed equal protection under the law, a phrase that would become the legal foundation for civil rights battles for the next century.
The amendment further guaranteed due process, ensuring no state could deprive a person of life, liberty, or property without fair legal procedure.
Many Southern states resisted these changes fiercely, and full enforcement of the 14th Amendment's promises would take generations to achieve.
In 1807, 15th Amendment guaranteed that the right to vote could not be denied based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
For a time, black voter turnout surged, and black Americans won elected office at every level of government across the South.
Southern states soon found ways around it: poll taxes, literacy tests, and intimidation tactics that didn't technically mention race, but effectively blocked black voters.
It would take nearly a century and a new civil rights movement before these amendments' promises were more fully enforced. Even today, these three amendments remain central to major legal battles over citizenship, voting rights, and equal protection under the law. As these amendments reshaped the law, America turned toward a new era of rapid growth, industry, and transformation. The Civil War had ended slavery, and Reconstruction had tried to rebuild the nation on new terms. Next, the Gilded Age and Progressive Era,